here's Brody Brazil.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Brody Brazil. You know, sports guy. That's typically the stuff I do here on YouTube, so this time around, it's going to be a little bit different, a straight-up book report on Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. My wife recently recommended this to me. Oh, by the way, no spoilers. You're safe watching the rest of this video. I should establish it that I enjoyed this story so much, I don't want to ruin it for you, so I'm not going to give anything away in the next couple minutes. You are safe here with me, so just take this as an endorsement and encouragement that you check out this book. I'm not going to give away any of the best parts. I should also let you know, I didn't actually read this book. I listened to the audiobook. That's more my thing. It fits my schedule and my preference, and it was tremendous. The performance of the narrator, Ray Porter, just unbelievable in the delivery and so much more. We'll dive into all that stuff, but it's obvious to me that I wouldn't even be sharing this with you unless I liked the book. I'm not wasting my time doing a bad book report. This book was so good, and this is my best compliment to start with here, that I would recommend it to a friend. I read it, or I listened to it, and now I want to talk about it with you and share it with everybody else that I know. Over the course of consuming this book, and this is also weird to say, I didn't look forward to the story ending. I mean, of course, I wanted to know how the conclusion went and how things ultimately shake out, like any book. But realizing that as I was driving around through chapter 26 and 27, and there's only 30, and I'm getting close to the end, I almost became sad that the plot and the storyline and the characters, which I had become so invested in, like there was going to be an end of the story at some point. So it was that type of book. When it was over, of course you feel satisfaction, but it also felt like I wanted more. And that's the best compliment I can give. Some things are so good, they leave you wanting more. And sci-fi is not necessarily my genre. I don't want to go too deep into how much sci-fi is actually in this book. A fair amount, but not a tremendous amount. Again, usually that's not something that's up my alley. But in this case, with these characters and the way this book was written, it definitely was right up my alley. And going back to the audiobook performance by Ray Porter, just phenomenal in the delivery and the pacing and the voices of the characters, not just the main character, but doing all the other voices. Dare I say it was amaze. Good. Question? If you listen to the audiobook, that might be my only giveaway or spoiler, but you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Or if you've listened to it, you do know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Ray Porter did a tremendous job. And so some people will say, Project Hail Mary, isn't this just like The Martian? Isn't this Andy Weir just kind of doing the same thing over and over again? I suppose it's true. There are some parallels and similarities. It's the person stuck out all by themselves in space. Okay, well, I'll tell you that part. I mean, that's pretty simple. You can tell that by the cover of the book, but it's not a continuation of The Martian, in my opinion. And I also listened to The Martian several years ago. By the way, I should also acknowledge that I'm several years behind because this book came out a few years ago, but I read The Martian when it first came out, and this book is not connected by any way, shape, or form. It's similar. It's along the same lines. Now, The Martian, in my opinion, was more stressful, more about one purpose, where Project Hail Mary involves a lot more problem solving, a lot more plot twists, and different stakes, right? So they're not the same, but they are similar, if that's fair. I also think that Andy Weir is just showcasing his knowledge and craft of space writing. All the little details and the words that invoke imagery in your head and really give you a visual of what the characters look like and what the space setting looks like and the sensations of being in space. Andy Weir just has all the right words and execution to really give you good visuals in your head. In terms of the characters, the main character of Project Hail Mary is Ryland Grace. He's a middle school teacher, extremely sensible, extremely likable, extremely relatable. And again, when you put Ray Porter's voice on that character, it really enhances everything that Andy Weir did. The supporting cast of characters is also great, even the antagonists, even the characters you're not supposed to like. You at least understand them and you respect them. they're redeeming, and all the interactions just make a lot of sense. There's not a lot of character interactions or relationships that don't make sense. And the staggered debuts, I should say, of the characters. I won't give everything away, but the book has a lot of flashbacks. And the book also introduces new characters, even from the past, over time. So those character friendships and debuts, they keep the story moving. It's not just the same 2 or 3 characters the entire time. There really is kind of a crescendo of characters in this book. Now, in terms of the overall plot, I think it's extremely creative. It's not overly predictable. There are times where you say, I know what's about to happen next. And sometimes you're given that reward. Other times, that's not how it works out at all. There's also some sneaky, funny moments in this book. I mean, sci-fi and comedy don't always go hand in hand, but in this book, Andy Weir really makes it happen. There's some dry humor, there's some obvious humor, there's some deep humor, there's some current event humor. We'll see how that goes in the long term, but really good stuff by Andy Weir. It's also a bit of science education. I'll just say you're going to learn a lot about xenonite in this video, and the periodic table and all the different elements in metals. That's such a craft of Andy Weir. I talk about, just describing space and what that's like, but also to actually have the science right of this book. Like you're kind of reading a science textbook sometimes as much as you're reading a fiction. I already mentioned that there's a lot of flashbacks in this book. In fact, it's based on flashbacks of 2 different time periods. And I will say, if there's one thing that was harder to follow, and especially in audiobook format, it was just the jumping back and forth where you're like, wait, which one are we in? Are we in the past? Or are we in the present? So that one was a little bit disjointing, but it also, in the big picture, leads to just a much more interesting story to read, knowing the present, but then also knowing some reasons behind it in the past. This book has built-in current Earth issues. I won't go too much deeper than that, but it's kind of cool to know that this book was written in the present based on some of the things that are mentioned and how they're posed. And it has reasonable twists. I mean, some stories and movies and books, things that humans create, they have unreasonable moments where you're like, wait, this person or this character can't survive all of that. So Project Hail Mary does have some twists, but they're so well thought out that they do seem realistic in the sense of, again, a fictional book just like this. They feel like reasonable twists, not something mythical and magical that could never possibly happen. Now, I mentioned that I'm a couple years behind in consuming this book, but maybe I'm a couple years ahead because I think this is going to be a hit when it comes out on the big screen. They're going to turn this, just like The Martian, into a movie. The rights for it were sold right around the time this book was published in 2020. Ryan Gosling is set to be the main character. He's going to be Ryland Grace. Production already started on this film in April of 2024. They already have a release date set for March 20th, 2026. So maybe you're checking out this video in the future. Maybe you're wondering about what the movie's going to be like. I'm just here to tell you about the audiobook, and what a great way to do it. Read the audiobook, read the book, listen to the audiobook, and then consume the movie when it comes out and see the similarities and differences in terms of the screenplay. But Andy Weir did a tremendous job. I highly recommend Project Hail Mary. And by the way, if you want to support a local bookstore, I'll put a link down below into where you can buy this book from a business just like that, support them, and like I said, enjoy something that I definitely did. I wanted to share Project Hail Mary. Thumbs up on this video. I really appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe down below so I can definitely see you back here next time.